Good morning. It's 5 a.m. down by the river, and we're waiting for the dawn of a new day. The moon is above. It's about half lit up. So we have moonshine on the river. What I'm going to talk about this morning is things that have been used to control mankind over the last, say, 10,000 years. If you're following my videos, you know that I've discovered Randall Carlson, who is an expert in a new field called CATASTROPHISM, which is people are now scientifically noticing and proving that there is recurring catastrophes on planet Earth that basically wipe out civilization on a worldwide basis, be it planetary problems or asteroid, comet strikes, volcanism. When we try to make the comeback, there is basically no civilization left, no support system, no infrastructure. It's mostly the hunter-gatherer farmers who were on high ground or near the equator who survive. And they all have stories of a golden age in the past. Which will be the pinnacle of civilization that was there before the disaster happened. For example, geologists have confirmed that the biblical flood was a real event, and that happened 20,000 years ago, which is 2 of the 10,000 year events back. But when the comeback happens, anyone who's hanging on to a bit of knowledge from the past uses that to get free lunch and becomes a high priest or a king or a warlord or something. And in our delusion of being descended from cavemen, the first of these things is the how to make fire. And we only have cavemen because that stuff was protected from the elements and was preserved. This stuff that was in the forest was completely eaten up and dissolved by nature. There are no skeletons ever found in a thick forest. So if you've never seen Quest for Fire, the old movie, you should check that out. And the historical reference in that movie is people who didn't know how to make fire by rubbing 2 sticks together met the people who knew how to do that with the bow device that was used to spin the wood. And to them it was a miracle, because they'd been getting their fire from lava rocks and lightning strikes, forest fires, and preserving it in a little cage. And I had someone whose job was to make sure the fire never went out. And if the fire went out, it was a disaster for the tribe, because they lost their heat, they lost their ability to cook, they lost their ability to frighten the animals away from them. And the next stage would be the introduction of psychedelic drugs, mushrooms, etc., to produce shamanic states. And ooh and ah. And this produces the shaman and the priest class. Plus, if there is a higher consciousness induced, maybe you can bring some new inventions to the party and say, I am a god king. Give me your cash and your beautiful girls. Third stage is fairly close to us this time around, which is with agriculture. We have the invention or reinvention of alcohol as a means to bring something new to the party. Literally. So now the means used to control and dominate, overlord the mass of humanity is electronic media, where you're able to control what everyone sees as information. In village life, you only have what you can see, which is about 18 miles to the horizon, and where you can walk to, which is probably 30 to 100 miles around. Rumors from other villages. But you'd never know what was happening 300, 500,000 miles away across the globe. But now we can see everything, including you can look up your house on Google Earth if you want. You can dial into the rovers on Mars. But now we have there's 3 or 6 people in the North American continent who control the content of the media. And things like communist China being able to buy the movie studio and have the scripts bent towards what they want us to see in the West. And at the beginning I said we're waiting for the dawn of a new day, which is a phrase that the communists use to introduce their ideas. It's going to be a dawn of a new day, and your job is to help us usher in the paradise. There's no country that I know of in the world that's communist that is a paradise or even equivalent to the former safety and security and wealth of the democratic countries. And they're going under, they're going down. Well, the reason for this is not what you would think it is. It's next year, 23, the 10,000 year cycle of disasters is coming up. That's where the four outer gas giants line up in a certain configuration, and all that gravity and magnetism is able to cause earthquakes and tsunamis and volcanism on planet Earth. And the pressure of that coming is making people more and more agitated. And Saturn is included in that. And every time the closest approach of Saturn happens, there's just Saturn by itself, there is a 400-year cycle of bad weather, bad crops, cold temperatures, famine and disease, and then the people usually rise up against the government and say, well, if you can't handle this and protect us from this, maybe we don't need you. Well, this has been historically confirmed by looking at the dates of what's happened versus the geological record of what was there in the trees and the ground and the ice cores. Lots of people doing really good work. We could know what's going on, and this stuff should be taught in schools, but if everyone knew what would be going on, they wouldn't be able to keep us as tax slaves. So the organic film on the surface of the Earth, if you looked at the Earth from the side view, is unbelievably thin. I think the major atmosphere is about 60 miles thick. Still enough to stop most meteors. And the organic film is right at the boundary between the rock, solid Earth, and space. You rise above the actual rocks. There's organic, thin organic film, and then gases up to 60 miles, or maybe 180, depending on what thinness you're going to accept. And according to the esoteric mystery schools, the biofilm is the receiving apparatus for the Earth as a living being to receive communications from other planets and stars and the universe in general. And the reason all plants grow vertically upward is they're being pulled on by the moon against the gravity of Earth. For example, in Indonesia, they don't cut the hardwood on the nights of the full moon because the moon is pulling the liquids up into the wood and makes it full of water, which makes it less hard. And what is not allowed is the possible mental effects on individual human beings or groups of humans, except for in the full moon, everyone goes crazy. The mall cops know that. The nurses in psychiatric facilities know that. But the combined gravitic, mechanical, and other forces we probably don't know about yet have an effect on the biomass, and we're part of the biomass. And the leftover information from the previous civilizations in the Vedas and in Egypt and in the mystery schools is that there are scales of behavior, as above, so below. Everything rotates. We have day and night. The earth rotates around the sun revolves around Vega, the whole galaxy spins in its own axis, and that's spinning around the galactic center, of which we know very little. So the situation is we have the final civilization. Civilizations come in groups of 8, and they are 800 years long. Will you still love me when I'm 64? And we're in the last civilization in the group of 8 that started 6,400 years ago. And it's going to be about 30 years long. It's called the electronic civilization. And we are being spoon-fed by the 3 or 6 people that own the media as to what the world we live in is and is